Good morning, Year 6. I hope that you're all well and that you're keeping safe. I'm here in school. We're good. We're enjoying being back in school. We're enjoying working through our Oak Learning Academy lessons and our Victorian lessons, just like you have been at home. And we miss you all very, very much. So, as you know, your topic is all about Victorians. You might have looked at Victorian housing. You might have looked at Victorian education. I'm going to continue that over the next few weeks. And today, I'm going to read you the first chapter of Oliver Twist, which is a really, really famous book written by Charles Dickens. And it's through the Victorian era, Victorian time. And you're able to pick up different things as you go around what it was like to be a Victorian in that time. So I'm going to read you the first chapter today. I'm going to continue this over the next few days, a couple of weeks, and we're going to complete the book together. So make sure you look on the home learning page. Each day you'll hopefully see either my face or maybe another face be reading this to you guys. I'm going to read the first chapter today, and our topic task, as you've seen on our home learning site, is all linked to this first chapter. So here we go. The first chapter, Oliver Twist, starts like this: in which Oliver enters a loveless world. Here we go. For 3 whole minutes, the feeble object on the bed struggled to breathe. For 3 whole minutes, no one knew whether he would live or die. If he had died, then this book would have been the shortest in history. But he didn't die. His mother did that. As Oliver took his first breath and began to cry, his mother whispered a few desperate words to the old woman sitting beside the bed, asked to hold the child, kissed him on his small, damp head, then fell back on the pillow. Oliver was an orphan, left alone in a world with no one to love him. The old woman reached inside the young woman's clothing, helped herself to a little something of her troubles, then went to find a workhouse shirt for the baby. This happened in the workhouse, you see, that most feared place in any town. Only the penniless poor with nowhere else to go in the world turn to the workhouse for help, for it is as dreadful place as any prison. Oliver's mother had collapsed outside its doors, her shoes worn through, her strength gone, too weary to even speak to her own name. And so Oliver was born in the workhouse and given a stained old shirt and a second-hand name to wear. It was Mr. Bumble the Beadle who thought of that name. He was working his way through the alphabet from A to Z, and it so happened he reached the letter T. So Oliver was called Twist. Oliver Twist, just another worthless, unwanted, wailing waif in an unforgiving world. Mr. Bumble the Beadle put Oliver, for the first 9 years of his life, into the care of Mrs. Mann. Mrs. Mann had such a tender heart that she looked after a whole houseful of workhouse babies. She was paid 7p a week for each child she took into her home. And 7p a week is more than enough to feed and clothe a grown child. So Mrs. Mann, who could not bear to spoil the dear children, spent only 2p a week on them and kept the rest for herself. As a result, there was no danger of her little darlings ever overeating. In fact, many of them gave up and died of hunger, which was very naughty and vexing of them. The rest grew up small and thin, which is all to the good in an overcrowded house. Oliver Twist spent his 9th birthday in a cellar. That was where Mrs. Mann locked up children who cried, and Oliver was a great one for crying. In fact, inside or out, Oliver had been crying ever since the day he was born. He did not know that it was his birthday, of course, until Mr. Bumble came calling and informed Mrs. Mann that it was time for Oliver to go back to the workhouse and start to earn an honest living. "You'll be sorry to leave the dear lady, I suppose," said Mr. Bumble sharply to Oliver. She who has cared for the boy like you when nobody else in the world could love you." Oliver, his hair still full of cellar cobwebs, gazed up at Mr. Bumble's hugely round red face, and big tears rolled down his white cheeks and in the corners of his mouth. "There now," See how sorry it is to be part from you, Mrs. Mann, exclaimed Mr. Bumble with satisfaction. The Board of Governors who ran the workhouse were determined to save money. Far too many poor people were coming to the door asking for help. Obviously, the food was too good, so rations were cut. From that day on, each person living there received only a bowl of water each day. The boys like Oliver Twist, were always hungry. All day they picked old rope to pieces to make wadding, and while they picked, they thought about food. When supper came, there was one swift rattle of spoons of china, and the gruel was gone. No need to wash the dishes, they were licked clean. If I don't get more to eat, I'll turn cannibal and eat one of you, declared Harry, glaring round at the others wide-eyed. He'd looked as if he'd meant it. One of us has to tell them we need more food. They'd hang us or transport us to Australia as convicts. Whoever would dare ask, gasped Oliver. Well, draw lots, said Harry, and held out a bunch of straws like a bouquet without its flowers. Each boy picks a straw, and the one who picks the shortest will speak up at the end of dinner. So that's what they did. Straw by straw, they picked the bundle to pieces. Oliver was left holding a wisp no longer than his straw-coloured hair. The other boys stared at him, then turned away, each glad to have escaped the dreadful mission. The dining hall was cold that evening. Oliver's breath froze in the air like dragon smoke. He scraped clean his bowl, then stood up shaking his legs. He walked up to the stove where the warden with the ladle stood warming himself. The warden glared. "What is it, Twist?" The words seemed to have frozen solid inside Oliver's mouth. He held out the bowl, thin arms shuddering so hard that the spoon tinkled. "Please, sir, I want some more." So there's the picture. And that's the end of chapter 1. Chapter 2 starts in which Oliver takes up a profession. So I hope you will have a lovely weekend. Stay tuned on Monday. I'm going to read the next chapter to see what happens when Oliver goes to the warden and asks for some more food. Tune in to find out. Have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Thank you.